Good evening and welcome to the Grand Prairie City Council meeting for Monday, March 10th. I'd ask everyone to rise and join us in singing O Canada. Thank you to the National Film Board for the images of our country and to our very own Grand Prairie Boys Choir for the audio. We'd move on to the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes. Can we get a motion for that set of minutes from February 24th? Councillor Rice.
I move adoption of the City Council meeting minutes on February 24th, 2014.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Did anyone note any errors or omissions in that set of minutes? Everything looks like it's in place. Councillor Radburn, you noticed something?
Thank you, Member Given. If I could ask that under round table, the sixth bullet from the bottom, it says GPRC Gala and Awards Evening attended by, it was the actually Grand Prairie Regional Tourism Association Gala and Service Awards.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks for that catch, Councillor Radburn. There's a reason why we ask. There's a reason why we ask. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So we've caught that. And so can we get a motion? Councillor Rice's motion is to adopt the minutes with that change. I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And I'd look for an adoption of the agenda. Councillor Radburn.
Given, I would move that Council adopt the agenda as presented with the addition of 9.4.2 Grand Prairie Public Library expansion tender.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion on the agenda as recommended? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. And the agenda is adopted with that one addition. And this brings us to the delegation portion of our agenda. It's an opportunity for anybody in the community to come forward and address council on any community-related matter. We had a couple of delegations let us know ahead of time that they're going to be here. And first, there's a partnership presentation. And so I understand that the Alberta Real Estate Foundation is here. And yeah, if you'd like to come forward, come on up, Cheryl. Ms. Shandell, if you just want to maybe make a little bit of an introduction, and I think you're giving us a presentation, isn't that right?
For me?
I think you're giving us a presentation.
You did already.
Sure. If you just want to maybe just have a little bit of a seat, you can introduce a little bit of what this is about for the public that don't know.
So I'm here representing the Alberta Real Estate Foundation, which is an organization for all of Albertans, and it's funded by trust monies that come into trust accounts at real estate brokerages. And so it partners with brokerages and with the Alberta residents throughout the province, because if they didn't buy properties, we wouldn't have money to fund interesting projects like the solar panels on the roof of this building. So Nate approached the Alberta Real Estate Foundation with the idea to do this technology because, as you know, solar panels are being looked at very heavily for, conservation and different things. And it was a really interesting project. And they looked at different latitude and longitudes on the Earth. And a lot of this technology Germany builds. And we happen to be... Germany really likes where we're located because of the amount of daylight. We have a huge amount of daylight, and they were really shocked that we did have that much. And so two things happened. Nate approached the Alberta Real Estate Foundation knowing that we wanted to grant money for these kind of projects. And they also looked at Northern Alberta because we don't grant a lot of money up here. And the southern part of the province gets a bulk of the grants just because that's where the applications come from. So they were pretty excited about, I push hard for grants from this area, but we don't unfortunately often get very good applications. They're not as good a project as this was. So this got applied through Nate. They came to the city, they started talking to different people here, and I was very impressed with the city of Grand Prairie and their ability to latch right onto this. It was very good. So you have solar panels on the roof of this building. And I think Michelle has more information on how it's going.
It's going well.
Yeah, for the reports. But it's a really good project, and I think they're going to build on it, I think, as they go along because they're getting very good results. So it was really a good partnership, and I'm glad that the city of Grand Prairie was able to partake in it.
Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to partner and appreciate the work of the foundation in securing the dollars to be able to make this happen. And so if there's nothing else, then I'll come around and accept that photo and memento. I'll be right around.
Actually, they were summer staff from the city. And they, sorry. Sorry, I'm not quite sure.
Thanks again, Ms. Schindel. Certainly appreciate it. And again, appreciate the work of the realtors in our community and the foundation as a whole across the province. And I'm sure with your recommendation, people across the north are going to be looking up the application process and figure out what they can do to get some more apps in. But thank you very much for that support. Next up, we had Mr. Harold Friesen from the Downtown Association to speak to a couple of items that are later on in our reports. And I'll recognize Councillor Rice at this time.
I'd like to declare a conflict and leave the chambers.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So Councillor Rice has declared a conflict of interest and will leave the council chambers. And Mr. Friesen, let me turn your microphone on. There you are. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Harold Friesen. I'm chair of the Downtown Association for a little while longer anyway. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming to our AGM. It's always good to have support of council. I think it makes for a better downtown and it makes for a better city. The budget was sent to all of our members. As far as I know, we didn't get any replies on it. It was brought to the board passed it. It was brought to the AGM, and it was passed unanimously with no questions or comments. We have a slight increase, but it's below inflation. And of course, with our budget, we never know. It may not be an increase at all, just because we find out what it is when they do the square footage thing. So other than that, does anybody have any questions on this budget?
Any questions for Mr. Friesen on the Downtown Association budget as proposed? No, I don't see anything for you, Harold. Harold, one question actually. You mentioned that you're going to be stepping down as chair. Thanks very much for all of your service. I see that you're not leaving the board though, so that's good news. It wasn't clear to me at the AGM who's going to be stepping into the chair. Has that been decided yet?
It will be decided at our next meeting, which is at the end of the month.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here tonight. So this is still the delegation portion of, if we can call back Councillor Rice and let her know that she can come back. As I said, this is still the delegation portion of our agenda. You don't have to let us know ahead of time that you're going to come and present. Is there anybody else that wanted to come forward on any community-related matter that wanted to address council? Yep, sure, sir. Come on down. We'd like to give everybody, sort of a maximum of about 5 minutes. Please come and have a seat at the presenters table. Introduce yourself, your full name for the recording secretary, and be welcome.
My name is Frank Scully, and I don't represent GPRC or any other group. I'm here just to represent myself and my younger son, who's autistic. But he's involved in a program at GPRC called the Transitional Vocational Program. And the program basically helps people with special needs to learn how to survive in the community on their own. Part of the program that they require is to have some job training, or just an opportunity for a couple months to do some actual real work. And with the city being such a large employer and diversity of work available with the city, I'm hoping that the city would seriously look at this program and assist any of these people that as much as they could. That's about all I'd have to say about that.
Thanks for the presentation. I see, just don't take off because there may be some questions for you.
Okay.
I see that you've already handed off that information to administration. And I don't know if anybody could speak to this, but at the end of last term, council actually asked administration to do some work on a Rotary-based Rotary Clubs project around employment, and it may be somewhat related, not exactly the same, but somewhat related. So Gary, can you speak to that?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, from our indications the programs are very similar. We have to speak with GPRC to get some more details and make sure they're complementary. The city is in final stages of sorting through the Rotary Employment Partnership, and hoping to bring that back very soon in the next month.
And just by going from memory, the Rotary Employment Partnership is Rotary asking employers to identify real work, exactly as you said, that's available within their organizations for people with disabilities or other challenges. And so the city's already doing some of that work, which will probably aid us in having would be important information for us to know when we start to talk to GPRC. So thanks very much for bringing it forward. I don't know if anybody had any questions, comments. Councillor Rice?
I missed the delegation's name.
My name is Frank Scully.
Frank Stoley?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks very much for coming today, and thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay. So as I've said, this is the delegation portion. Is there anybody else that wanted to come forward to address council on any community-related matter or any other matter? I note that we've actually got believe it or not, for those of you that are here, this is actually a relatively large crowd for a city council meeting. But I do understand that there are some students from GPRC here, and so just want to welcome you and glad that you're joining us for the council meeting. They are always this exciting, sometimes even more exciting. It may be hard to believe, but we certainly appreciate the fact that you're coming down to learn a little bit about our local government and what happens at one of our meetings, so welcome to all of you. I don't see anybody else coming forward to make any presentations to council during the delegation portion, so I'm going to close that part of our agenda and we'll move on. We don't have any public hearings scheduled for tonight and we don't have any unfinished business, so we'll move into the reports section. And our first report is item 8.1, council and committee meetings for the FCM 2014 period. Could maybe get I'm going to ask for an introduction from administration, Ms. Cherney, and then we can have a motion. Ms. Cherney?
Thank you, Mayor Given. You have a report attached to your agenda requesting that council cancel its meeting scheduled for June 2nd and the committee meeting scheduled community growth and community living committees scheduled for June 3rd. The majority of council will be away at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in that end of May, beginning of June time period, and it will create problems with having sufficient quorum for the meetings. We have noted in the report, Mayor Given, that should special meetings be requested or required, that they can be scheduled when sufficient members of council return.
Thanks very much, Ms. Cherney. Discussion, debate, or motions? Councillor Rice?
I would move the council cancel the June 2nd, 2014 council meeting and the June 3rd Community Growth Committee and Community Living Committee.
Thanks very much for that motion, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate on Councillor Rice's motion? I don't see anybody ringing into the queue on my screen here, so I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. The next was item 8.2, Councillor Rice. Councillor Rice is, thank you. Councillor Rice has declared a conflict of interest for the next two items, 8.2 and 8.3. So Downtown Association is her employer. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'd move that City Council appoint Amanda Hickok for the remainder of a term ending 2015, and Harold Friesen, Scott Lissaway, and Jason Richards to 3-year terms ending the BRZ Annual General Meeting in 2017 to the Downtown BRZ Association Board of Directors. Just speaking quickly to this, these elections were held at the Annual General Meeting that Harold has shared with us, and these are the results of that election, and they need to be confirmed by City Council.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Again, I don't see anybody in the queue to speak, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Councillor Radburn, do you want to take that second one?
Thank you. Certainly would. I would move the council adopt the 2014 Downtown BRZ budget as presented. And on this one, Harold's kind of covered the background, so we'll leave it at that.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So this is an annual piece of business that the city has to do. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion to adopt the Downtown Association budget as presented? Again, seeing nobody ringing in, I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries as well. Again, we can call back in Councillor Rice as those two items are dealt with. Helen is getting her exercise tonight. Okay, so we move on to item 8.4, which is a land use bylaw amendment. And I would look for a brief introduction from the Community Growth Director, Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw C1260-6 is to amend the land use bylaw, and it's recommended for first reading and for council to set Monday, April 7th, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and location for public hearing purposes. The proposed bylaw amends the existing DC 10A site-specific district, which is located in the VLA area, and it adds drawings and labelings for clarification of the architectural controls that are outlined in that bylaw, mainly dealing with the placement and size of windows.
Great. Thanks very much, Ms. Ferguson. I have a motion for first reading from anybody on council. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Rice.
Reading of bylaw C1260-6.
Thanks very much, Councillor.
This is an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So no discussion debate on first reading. I'll call for the vote. And that motion carries. Councillor Rice, would you like to
I
do date
move
time?
that Monday, April 7th, 2014 at 6:30 PM in City Council chambers be established as the date, time, and location of the public hearing.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So that motion is for date, time, and location, is up for discussion and debate, but only as to the date, time, and location. So any discussion on that? Don't see anybody in the queue. And I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion is carried, so that item will come back Monday, April 7th. This takes us into our committee business. We'll start with 9.1, the 100th Anniversary Committee, and Councillor Rice, I think that's you as well.
I move that council receive the minutes of the 100th Anniversary Committee meeting held on February 19th, 2014.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Did anyone note any errors or omissions in that set of minutes? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Rice, do you want to give us an update about that?
I do. It's very exciting as we're now into our 100th anniversary year. It's getting really, really full out there with lots of exciting things. The Home is Where the Art is exhibition will be kicking off on the 24th of April. Of course, the Innovation Conference on May 22nd and 23rd, and most people, I hope, will know that Grand Prairie holds the highest number of patent applications per capita of any place in Canada. So innovation, we thought, had to be a huge part of the 100th anniversary. The Fire Fit Challenge, both the fire chiefs of Alberta and the firefighters of Alberta are holding their conferences here this year at the same time. Which is interesting. The Guinness World Records challenge that is taking place with the Stompede and the Downtown Association, the record has just been broken. We're now up to trying to feed 4,000 at one time. So that's getting a little hairy. But we believe it's doable. The soapbox derby, I want to thank Councillor O'Toole for, he was beating on that one right from the time he found out it was going to be the 100th anniversary. The remote controlled car shows, they're having 6 events and they're always a big seller. The county is celebrating 100 years of pioneers, so they're getting involved. On June 6th, something that's never been done before, the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra will be up for portions of it, and it's symphony and singing in Muskasippi Park. Of course, Municipal Government Day is going to have a 100th anniversary theme. The Century Play. There'll be a special citizenship ceremony as we welcome new citizens. It's Street Performers Festival. 100 Years of Transportation is going to feature some rather unusual machines and methods of transportation that we use to get around. Then we have the big homecoming weekend on the August long weekend of this year, kicked off by the Chamber of Commerce homecoming. The anniversary book launch will take place that weekend. It's a fabulous book saluting the people that built this community. The homecoming weekend is going to feature a market down in the park and an old-fashioned carnival. There will also be a Heritage Village story tour. And then there is the Centennial Stakes race out at Evergreen Park, of course. The naming of 100 parks. And there are still 7 or 8 that we are dealing with that are firming up. The Downtown Association will be featuring Memory Lane, which will run all along 100th Avenue, featuring 50 photographs, 2 feet by 3 feet, in the windows of various businesses, showing that business, that location at some time in its past history. And there'll also be a phone app. So you can stand in front of a building, push the app, and it will give you the whole history of that building. Fairly exciting project, and I could go on for several hours, but that just gives you an idea of, from now until the end of December, prepare to be really busy because we got some exciting things happening.
Well, there's always lots going on in Grand Prairie, but even more so during the 100th anniversary. Thanks very much, Councillor Rice, to you and your committee for all the hard work. I think the community is going to enjoy the year. We'll move on to 9.2, the Special Community Living Committee from February 24th. Councillor Radburn, I believe that was yours.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that council receive the minutes of the Special Community Living Committee meeting held on February 24th, 2014. Just quickly speaking to this was brought this was a meeting we had just before the last council meeting, and that agenda item, which was the RFP for the sports field, parking lot, road upgrades, and site grading and construction of the turf field at the CKC site, actually was dealt with at that meeting.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Did anyone note anything out of place in that set of minutes? Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I do believe, unless I'm wrong, I was at that meeting, but it says I wasn't, so that's about it.
Okay. Thanks, Councilor McLean, for that catch. So just make sure that that's recorded in the minutes. Anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Takes us to 9.3, the Community Growth Committee from February 25th. Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah. Would move council receive the minutes of the Community Growth Committee meeting held February 25th, 2014. And if I could just speak on a couple of delegations that appeared at that committee meeting. We had the Alberta Forest Products Association, Mr. Brock Mulligan, Director of Communications, presented to committee a report outlining the programs that the Alberta Forestry Products Association is currently working on within the community. And we also had another delegation, Mrs. Margaret Dick, basically presented her thoughts on the building construction concerns and maybe some ideas that the city could maybe follow up on.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. So motion to adopt that set of minutes. Did anyone note anything out of place in that set of minutes? Seeing nothing, then I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. 9.4, the Community Living Committee from February 25th. Councillor Radburn, you're on again.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that council receive the minutes of the Community Living Committee meeting held February 25th, 2014.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn, you did have some business coming out of that meeting.
I did. Thank you very much, Mayor Gibbon. I would move council increase the financial commitment to the library expansion project by $108,000 to be funded from the facility renewal reserves. The library board came to committee with a request to help with, I think it was $223,000 that was needed because of the increased cost of the project. And we sent it to administration. Administration brought back a report that suggested that we increase our contribution by the city, increased the contribution to this project by $108,000. And this was consistent because in the initial budget, the city was funding, I think, 46% of the project. And so the 108 maintains that partnership in terms of the city's involvement versus, I guess, the library board's involvement. So that 46% of the additional cost is $108,000. And so we thinking was that we should be consistent with our support, but recognize the increased budget for the project. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just a question, I don't know if it would be directed to Gary or to Councillor Radburn. It's supposed to be setting up youth programs in an area to utilize that area. Is that the majority of what's happening here? Can someone, because there's an area in the library that hasn't been really utilized, right?
Mr. Roth, do you want to maybe describe the scope of the project?
Yes, Your Worship. This is an area on the second floor that was never completed when the building was originally built. At one point in time, it was used for storage. Because of the library's rapid growth in their programming, primarily with youth programming, the space is now needed for them to continue to provide those same programs.
Thanks very much. Any other discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing nothing, then I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries, and Councillor Ebron, you had the 9.4.2, the added item from tonight.
It's the addition to the agenda that came from our special community living committee meeting just before this meeting. And so I would move the council award tender T-77-410-13 renovations, Grand Prairie Public Library to Fillmore Construction as the lowest bid, meeting specifications in the amount of $554,000 excluding GST. So this tender has been out. The bid that was chosen was this bid that is in this motion. And I guess the urgency of passing this today would be that tenders were good for 90 days, and I believe the 90 days are up here later this month. So I'm hopeful that council will support awarding the tender so we can get on with the project. We were told at the committee meeting just prior to our meeting tonight that they had anticipated a 3-month time period to complete the project. So we would hope that could happen once we had awarded the tender. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ebron. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Just while you're deciding if you had any questions, just would note that maybe for the public that are watching or for our students, essentially what happened with the previous motion was to add some money so that we could afford to pay for this project. We took it out of basically a savings account, one of our reserves, so that we could meet the price that the project came in at. So the total cost is what Councillor Radburn mentioned in his motion, and the $100,000 from previous has just helped us get to that total amount that the city will be paying. And so with this motion, the city actually approves going ahead with that work. Councillor Radburn?
Yeah, and I think the other thing in terms of the audience, both here and at home, the library board is obviously a significant partner in this project as well, because they will have to get the 54%, so to speak, through grants, through sponsorships, through reserves. But that is their decision in terms of how to fund their portion of this cost.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any other discussion or debate on the motion? Again, I don't see anybody ringing in, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn, was there anything else from that February 25th meeting that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, a couple of things, Mayor Gibbon. Thank you very much. We did have a delegation from PARDS that gave us an update in terms of their capital project, and also they have received through FCSS grants some monies for a particular program that they talked to us about. In terms of other agenda items, we did one of the items was for direction to administration with respect to maybe the process of I guess, awarding the George Repka and Bill Bowes awards. And committee has suggested to, or asked administration to contemplate and reflect on the usefulness of a nominating committee in that process. And they're going to come back with a report in terms of how that might work. Committee thought that would generate increased interest in those awards, increase their profile, and in doing so, we would get more like applications, nominations. So that'll come back to committee. And the other thing is we supported entering into an updated lease agreement with PACE that changed. Initially, we're going to put in a lift, but now we're putting in a lift that would meet their needs. But also, we're addressing some other building improvements like HVAC system, minor roof repairs, and the building management system. So that new agreement will reflect those, I guess, supports that the city is helping with respect to the PACE building.
Thank you, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Rice, you had a question?
Going back to the George Repka Awards, I wonder if it would be useful if members of the committee or from the staff we're able to schedule presentations to, say, the Rotary clubs, who have a very strong track record of, and pretty much know who's made outstanding commitments to the community, to see if you couldn't drum up some little publicity on them.
That's a good idea, and hopefully Goodman has listened to that. That could be a function of a nominating committee, actually. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Rice. So we move to 9.5, the Pursuit of Excellence Committee. Councillor McLean, I think that was your committee.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I move a council receive the minutes of Pursuit of Excellence meeting held February 26, 2014.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? I don't see anybody ringing in, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Councillor McLean, do you want to share some highlights from the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. There's a couple, and one is really, really good. The committee decided to award for the Alberta Francophone Games for the end of May, beginning in June. We'll be proceeding, and they were allocated $12,000 from the Arctic Winter Games, which are an international celebration of sport and culture. The fund is the legacy of the 2010 Arctic Winter Games. And money was left over, and it can be distributed through the Pursuit of Excellence of the Arts Development Committee. And sometimes you have 1 or 3 people that are going for the monies, and the delegation came, were very excited, and all the medals be given out. On the back is going to say 100th anniversary. So that's another event to chalk up, and it's a big event for the 100th anniversary. They're looking at 300 to 600 youngsters coming. The only sad part of it, I guess, but the kids won't think of that for the councillors, is a lot of councillors, it's happened the weekend we're gone to the FCM. So the end of May, beginning of June. So that's pretty exciting news, and it's a big event to come to our city. And if you look around, there's a few Francophone schools in our community. It's getting bigger. So I'm very hats off to them, and I wish them complete success. There's one more. There's the Wapiti Nordic Ski Club came, did a presentation, and the committee awarded $2,500. It's to develop funds for a professional video to support their bid for hosting packages. And it's believed that we're probably going to get a few more hosting events coming to this area. Things are developing in Alberta, and they think they can attract other things. So that was very nice. And that was it. We have another one this month. I was surprised there was no athlete or coach, but this was a big one with these two. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. We vote on that? Oh, we did. Okay. Geez, I can hardly believe we're through our committee business already. We had no items of correspondence on our agenda. In our delegation business, I think the presentation from the Alberta Real Estate Foundation has been handled. The business from the Downtown Association, of course, has been handled. But Mr. Scully's presentation, I'm not sure. Councillor Rice, you had an action?
8-1 for information, or you think, no, we don't need to?
I think, yeah, I don't.
Then I would move that Mr. Stolley's presentation and the special needs programming from the GPRC be referred to administration.
Great. So receive for information and refer to administration. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing nobody ringing in, I'll call for the Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given, and I look forward to seeing this sooner than later, because I know, as Mayor Given was saying from last council, they're looking at the Rotary group, and now if we can look at the college and have both of them combined, that'd be really, really good. So I look forward to this coming sooner.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Anybody else? No, don't see anybody ringing in. I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. That handles all of our delegation business, I believe. We had no notices of motion tonight. And so we get into council member reports from the external agencies, boards, and commissions that council represent the city on. There were a few that had some information to share, and the first was the Disabled Transportation Society. Councillor O'Toole, you sit on that for the city.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Yes, we did have the AGM back in February, and I told you when we had our next meeting we would have an update on the executive that had been voted in. So I'm pleased to announce that Jerry Napier has stepped down. I don't know, that doesn't sound good, but he's past president. But I do want to make sure that everybody knows that Jerry has brought the Disabled Transport Society through some real rough times, and he's going to enjoy a little bit more of his retirement life. And so he's done very good. He's still going to stay on board as past president. But we have Phyllis Cash that has taken the role of chairperson. We've got Blaine Lavoie that's going to be the secretary, and I have been talked into looking after the vice chairmanship. We've got Keith Bennett will be looking after HR. Aileen Leach will be the current treasurer and still staying as current treasurer. And Laurie Trepanier will be a director, and Betty Rotten-Strach will be appointed as a director as well.
Great.
So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Rice, you had the AUMA, Alberta Urban Municipalities Association.
Well, it was certainly an interesting week last week. It began with the throne speech, followed by the mayor's caucuses, 3 of them. And we had great representation by the province, the premier, pretty much all of the ministers. I can't think of one that was missing, as well as the opposition leaders. And then the budget, where we saw MSI increase by 2.8%. I was a little disgruntled initially when I looked at the budget on Thursday. However, once I went over it a bit more in detail, the municipalities didn't fare that badly. There were several initiatives we had that were confirmed in the budget, but they don't have a budget implication for the province. I have reason to believe the street lighting project will probably go ahead, which will save Grand Prairie alone hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there's no cost implications. It will be funded by the sale of the CO2 emissions, and AUMA has found a purchaser for that. As well, the Water for Life program, I'm fully confident that that money is in this year's budget and that will be funded. So there were a couple of other, the commitment to move the Premier's Council forward sooner rather than later in terms of the Municipal Government Act review. And during the mayor's caucuses, I think one of the most important statements made came from Minister Hughes, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, who referred to AUMA as and advised that they are a partner, not a stakeholder. So somehow we've got that message across to them. So met with Minister Drysdale, and set up meetings with the Minister of Transportation. So lots happening. It's extremely busy, and I think we are going to see some really good news very shortly. Councillor Thiessen's name was endorsed by the executive for a seat on the Interagency Council on Homelessness. So our reputation may not survive this appointment.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for the update, Councillor Rice, and thanks for your continued work as president of the association. Certainly have a lot of comfort knowing it's under your stewardship. We had an update, speaking of another interagency, intercity this time, forum on social policy. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I had the opportunity on February 28th to gather with other municipal leaders from around the province to discuss at the Intercity Forum on Social Policy various matters that the province faces. One of them was homelessness. It was top of the agenda, in fact, and Danella Lang was elbowing me saying, "You get on that AMA board, Chris." So she'll be happy to hear of this potential appointment. Some of the things that we discussed, just classic business, I guess, is we had the election of a new chair and a co-chair for the Intercity Forum on Social Policy, as it is the group's mandate to hire a new chair and co-chair every year. We decided on Bev Esslinger as the chair and Carla Howitt as the co-chair. Simply because when we were talking about a round table, we thought that Bev being from Edmonton region and Carla being from Strathcona County, they had a lot more opportunities to negotiate and to network with different provincial representatives and or federal representatives to help get across our mandates as far as the Intercity Forum is concerned. So they were pleased to take on that role, although this would be the third time that Edmonton has chaired that. So eventually we're probably going to have to switch it up, but for now it makes the most sense. We also discussed at the top of our agenda was regional emergency management and really lobbying with the government to continue a partnership or to expand their partnership with the municipalities and municipal regions in response to emergency management and planning and stuff like that. I was pleased to say from the Grand Prairie regions area that we have GPREP in place, and as far as some other municipal regions are concerned, we're a little bit ahead of the ball game as far as that goes. So I was proud to be a part of Grand Prairie and that sort of step there. And yeah, it was a great networking opportunity, lots of good discussion, and again, housing seems to be an issue not only in Grand Prairie but around the province. So our two main items were to find more social housing options and lobby the government for that, and to increase our regional emergency management participation from the province. So.
That's great. Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen, for representing the city there. Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance.
That was me again.
Oh.
Actually, it was a busy week. I was on a little vacation, and on the 25th and 26th, I landed back in town to do the Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance. Typically, we only meet monthly. It's supposed to be quarterly, but now it's grown to monthly because it is such a huge watershed that the Peace Watershed Alliance covers. What we've been working on for the past year is developing a state of the watershed plan that we can get out to the public and allow them to see what the challenges that the Peace River watershed faces as far as environmental, industrial challenges that approach it. We were hoping at this meeting on the 25th with the consultants to have a great plan set up in place. Unfortunately, after the 25th, when we had discussed with the consultants and seen their presentation, that it was needed a little more to be desired. It ran like, this is the Peace River, this is the watershed, here's the life, but the challenges weren't really there, and so that's something that we need to have set in place so that we can address it with the government. So although it was 2 days of hard work and long meetings, 4 hours and then 8 hours the next day, we got a plan set up in place, and we should have the state of the watershed hopefully up to the board's standards, ready for our AGM, which happens on March 21st of this month. So.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Certainly look forward to seeing it. Councillor O'Toole, you had Philip J. Curry Dinosaur Museum.
Yes, so just a quick update. I just can tell you that the building itself is on time and on budget, and it's going up. Actually, every day you can see some huge improvements. And we've had a few. I'm on the building committee, and there's just a few changes that are just minor technicalities that we're just addressing now. And as for the main museum committee, I can tell you that I did mention at the last meeting that Harley Davidson has donated a motorcycle this year. The executive of all of Harley Davidson Canada will be here, and there will be a run from Grand Prairie to Wembley on the day that the museum opens. What's that?
Harley Davidson doesn't get involved in running.
We don't run, we ride. But Dan Aykroyd will be the leader of the event, and he'll be bringing some friends as well. So, like I said before, they're expecting somewhere between 800 and 1,200 riders. We'll probably have to get a permit for that, I would think. Eh?
As long as you stay on the provincial highway.
There you go. We're good.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. I believe that handled all of our council member reports for agencies, boards, and commissions. And maybe Councillor Rice, you had one more?
On March 12th, we are pulling our Canadian troops out of Afghanistan. The Honorable Jeff Johnson has asked that all municipalities across Alberta lower their flags that morning and raise them at noon as a way of, to say, appreciation to our troops, but also in remembrance of the civilians, Canadian civilians that have been killed there. I just wondered if we're doing that, if we're participating.
Yeah, Councillor Rice, thanks very much for that. We also received a request from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, which I think went out to, assuming all municipalities. Administration is already working to plan that, and I think is maybe working with some other organizations in town to add a little bit more than just the flag raising, I suppose. But we're going to be doing that along with, I believe there's also a request from the Education Minister to all school boards, and so the City of Grand Prairie is certainly going to take part.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rice. Councillor McLean, would you be ready to start roundtable with your roundtable report?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Given. On February 25th, as well as the downtown AGM meeting, and that was really good. February 26th, I also was at my first Pursuit of the Excellence meeting for on this council, and I've already spoke to that, and it was a very, very good meeting. February 27th, I was the Cultural Collaboration Project, Lifelong Learning. On February 28th, I was lucky to give out some presentation for the Alberta Emergency Services Medal presentation for Grand Prairie Fire Department recognition. And there was a few other councillors there, and I was there on behalf as being deputy mayor for the mayor, and very proud to be there. The firefighters of Grand Prairie, I believe there's 60 some of them, and they worked very hard and diligently, and they risked their lives sometimes out there in the field. So I was glad to be a part of that, and so was other councillors. As well, on March 3rd, I was at the annexation talks at the Coca-Cola Center. March 4th, I was representing the mayor, but I also brought my wife because she's an alumni, and actually Bernie Benson came along. We were at the GPRC Awards. Just the one I talked about is the economic impact. They did analysis for a year, and it added up to how much in the economy of $243 million. And I didn't quite look at that. I looked at how their people are learning from the college and then probably stay in the city of Grand Prairie for their careers. That's what I hope that a lot of it happen as they expand. So I was very glad to be there, and it was a full event for the lunch. And the other one was this week. I had the pleasure to be March 5th, 6th, and 7th at the Mayor's Caucus for AUMA in Edmonton, and it was a total delight. And thank you, Helen, for being you, especially at this time where the MGA is reviewing his under chart. It's good to have a lot of experience there in the time that towns and cities need that experience. Just a couple things I want to bring up. Gary, are you able to put that chart up on the screen so the councillors and everybody can see this? Because this is stuff that you do at AUMA that's very, very important. And this chart, as you can see, there's a 90-10 equation for policing, and AUMA is trying to address shortfalls in police funding, as grants are not keeping pace with the cost of service delivery, and there are significant inequities in the way that municipalities are currently contributing to police funding. As you can see, that green mark, that's the cities from 2004 to 2013, and the red is the under 10% from the province. And a lot of the police officers, they go to this chart just right away stood right out for me. And the police, City of Grand Prairie taxpayers pay for a lot of RCMP that go out to the county and do what they have to do for their daily business. So this is something AUMA is really looking at, and thank you, Gary, for having that chart. So as you can tell, there needs to be a change in the formula for policing in Alberta. The other one that I was quite proud of, and there was so much that was going on, and it was really exciting. And there was one you might have heard in the budget, $60 to $80 million for lodge funding. And this really stuck out for me because if you look at a lot of the senior homes, the majority, 3/4 of them were built in the 60s and 70s. So they need to be renovated or torn down or rebuilt. And they're actually doing that in a lot of different areas in Alberta. And when they were built, they weren't built necessarily for people in wheelchairs or disabilities. So we're going to be going to the next phase where we're going to have to rebuild lodges and actually build them right. And we're actually looking at maybe another lodge coming. So this was pretty important. And I think the 60-80 million is just the start of it, of bringing it back in line. And there was one other one here I've seen from over 50 years for lodges in Alberta. and they've helped over 200,000 citizens. So that's pretty big. And I can go on and on about this at AUMA and mayors, and I was glad to be a part of it. But Helen, you really shined, and I was glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councilor McLean. Councilor McLean, thanks for stepping in as Deputy Mayor. I know that you've had a busy turn, and certainly appreciate the work that you've done making sure that the City of Grand Prairie is represented when I'm not able to be there. Thanks very much. Councilor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. So February 25th, I also attended the Downtown Association AGM, and in the evening, I attended the Travel Alberta Board reception. Actually, Stuart Wilson is a new board member for Travel Alberta, and he volunteered to host the board for meetings and a reception. And so it was an opportunity to meet the board and an opportunity for Stuart to kind of share and profile our fine community. February 27th, I attended with Councillor Tarrant, the Council for Lifelong Learning, Strategic Planning, Community Consultation. February 28th, I had the Grand Spirit Foundation Management Committee and the Grand Prairie Fire Department Awards and a tender opening. March 3rd, I also attended the Annexation Update Workshop. And March 6th, I attended, I guess, along with Councillor Tarrant and Mayor Given, the Youth Council Leadership Retreat Luncheon. I'd say there was about 15 youth there, and they were spending a day and a half with a facilitator and developing their leadership skills. And March 7th, I was pleased to bring greetings on behalf of the Mayor and Council to the Francophone Day flag raising and proclamation, and followed up with a tender opening. Thank you, Mayor Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I don't know where these past 2 weeks went. It was very busy. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, both related to youth. As Councillor Radburn mentioned, I was at the Youth Leadership Retreat. We were invited there with yourself, and it was great to be able to talk with youth, kind of get a lot of them I found were new to the community, so to get their input, what things they liked, what things were lacking, and to give them some updates there. That was great. Also on Friday night, I was able to go to bring greetings to the Grand Prairie Friendship Center, the Spirit Seekers conference, and it was a great event. I think one thing I want to highlight was the keynote speaker was Raquel Fisher, I believe, and she's a past GPRC alumni. She grew up in the area, and she went on to attend law school in University of Victoria, and so she was able to come back as the keynote speaker for this conference, and she was very inspirational. I think she really struck a chord with the youth that were there, and it's just great that we were, the city was, has an ambassador, an Aboriginal, someone that was an Aboriginal youth that went on to do well and is leading their community. So with that, it was a great couple of weeks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor Clayton.
There we go. Thank you. I'm going to just talk about two quick things that, in addition to other events that I attended with fellow councillors, I wanted to make note of the event on February 25th. Grand Prairie has been selected to take part of the Becoming a Community Leader program. It's an initiative for building community leaders and increasing the capacities of leaders in our community. It's a free of charge program that you can take online for 15 weeks, and there's an adult as well as a high school component of it. You simply register online. There's blogs, etc., and learning tools that'll help you continue to grow your strengths. And Grand Prairie is the city is very proud to be part of this, as well as 20 other local community organizations. You can register by going to www.register.becomecommunitybuilder.ca. Also, I wanted to make note and congratulate the GPRC women's volleyball team. We're at Nationals this past weekend, and They had been ranked about 5th throughout the year, and they really peaked at the right time, making it to the finals against another Alberta team. Unfortunately, they didn't win the gold medal, but they did get silver medal at the Nationals. So we're very proud of them to make it to the finals and to get a silver medal. And both men's and women's finals were Alberta teams. So Alberta's very strong in the volleyball across the country in the college level. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor O'Toole?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Given. I attended 16 events in the last couple of weeks. I just want to highlight a couple. On the 29th, I attended the Maple Syrup Festival down at Muskosipi Park, and I'd like to thank ACFA for that. And another one is the 2014 Farm Family Award and Banquet. I represented the mayor and council at that one. Harry and Emily Schudlow and family were given that award, and it was quite remarkable. He spoke very highly of the city and councils. He's been involved with a number of things, just about every aspect of agriculture, and past a councillor member in Sexsmith and the county as well. And he just wanted to give the city of Grand Prairie a big thank you for being there when he needed it, and won his farm operation and other areas of expertise, you might say. And another event that I went to was this last weekend. Earl Smith, a former member of the Peace Country Amateur Radio Club, was recently appointed to the Canadian Amateur Radio Hall of Fame. He passed away in February of 2012, and I don't normally bring up people that have passed on, but Smith, also known as call sign V6NM, was the president of the Radio Amateurs of Canada, and executive with the Amateur Radio League of Alberta, the Canadian Radio Relay League, and the Canadian Amateur Radio Federation. After his passing, the American Radio Relay League released a bulletin calling him the Ham's Ham and a man's man. I personally known him very well. He was a terrific guy and one of the friendliest men I ever met. And he would help you out in any way he could regarding ham radio and his expertise. He supported amateur radio and really promoted it, and he gave a big impression to the rest of the world because he did talk to the entire world pretty much every week. So thank you very much. That's my report.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Rice?
I too attended the fire department because it was the province's awards presentation to the firefighters. I think one of the parts of that whole process that really humbled me was that part of the components is it is voted on and given by their members, their fellow working people. So I thought that made it extremely special. Other than that, I think I touched on my whole week, and so that'll be it.
Certainly recognize that your days are pretty absorbed with the UMA stuff. Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Just a couple events that I attended this past week. Of course, the week prior to, I was out of town for most of the time on council business. But a couple things too. I also was a part of the annexation hearing with other members of council, as well on this past week. Took part in a couple events with Councillor Lauren Radburn, the Francophone flag raising on behalf of the city, and then he schooled me on how to do tenders. Sort of a request. I wanted to learn under a master, so I said. So I got that opportunity. And then on the same for the same weekend, this past weekend here, on the 7th and 8th, I too was at the Spirit Seekers with Councillor Rory Trent. He gave the speaking on behalf of the city on the Friday, and I took in the entertainment and opening ceremonies for that. And then on the Saturday, I got to sit amidst chiefs and heads of the Friendship Center Council to give greetings on behalf of the city and yourself for the youth there that received many awards. And it was a delightful evening, finished off with a round dance, and I couldn't have been more pleased with how the weekend went. So.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. And I just wanted to note, Council, we sort of have all gone to a new system for Roundtable. I think it works great. In the past, council members would sort of tend to report every single event they attended, and council members are sort of choosing to go down and highlight some, and I certainly appreciate that. I think it's working really well. I'm just going to, I also attended many of the other events that were noted. Three that weren't mentioned. On the 26th, I was in Edmonton for the AUMA's MGA Steering Committee. So this is the AUMA committee that is making recommendations to the AUMA board and executive for the position that AUMA will be taking with regards to the Municipal Government Act review. Certainly was a pleasure to be appointed to that board, and my first meeting was very interesting, and I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for the position of the City of Grand Prairie to get in at a fairly high level. And I think Councilor McLean already saw some of the work of that committee at the Mayor's Caucuses. On the 28th, I attended just about a full day meeting with members of administration and from other community partners, a visioning session on behalf of the SCORES group. Now, SCORES is the Standing, I'm not going to get it right. Standing Committee on Recreation and Education.
Education, yeah.
Sport. Yeah, hey, okay, we got it together as a team effort. But in practical application, SCORES is the Public School Board, the Catholic School Board, the Francophone School Board, and the Grand Prairie Regional College and the city working together to ensure that there's as much community access as possible to school facilities. In exchange for the community access after hours to school facilities, the schools that participate, the school boards that participate, get free or reduced access to city facilities for their students. So it's a long-standing, probably 35-year agreement. Really is best in class across the province. Other areas of the province still don't have this kind of thing. But the group had come together to discuss a little bit about how we do some visioning and some planning for recreation and educational facilities and some cultural facilities as we go into the future. So I think that was going to be worthwhile. It was very worthwhile. In fact, the group decided that we would need to schedule another session because we got fairly in depth and there was more work to do. The final event that I will highlight was on the 3rd. In the evening of the 3rd, I attended with Josie Burrow and Lindsay Juniper from our Parks Department. We were at GPRC and we were able to participate in a pipe ceremony that was led by First Name Elder Cardinal, the elder in residence at GPRC. And he was leading this pipe ceremony in order to seek a name for Muskosipi Park North. As council is aware, we're developing Muskosipi Park North, and there was a request from council to administration to work with JAPACOS, the Grand Prairie Circle of Aboriginal Services, to get their recommendation on a name. And so I just wanted to share this with council because this is the first time that we've participated in this, and the first time we've sort of taken this approach. And I want to be very clear that the recommendation isn't taken lightly. Pipe ceremonies like this aren't done sort of just on a whim. I was very honored to be able to participate and to learn and share with Elder Cardinal. And so that recommendation forward will come forward through administration. But I just wanted to impress upon council that this wasn't something that was sort of, it wasn't people just sort of putting their heads together and coming up with a name. Elder Cardinal actually led us through the ceremony and worked to, I'm not sure that I want to make sure that I don't sort of misconstrue it, but worked to get guidance from the spirit world on a recommendation for the name. And so he did get that, and there will be a name coming forward through the regular channels through the city. But I just wanted to impress upon council sort of the honor that it was to participate, and the fact that this recommendation isn't just sort of a, well, here's what we think. So when we see it, I think it's incumbent upon us to take it pretty seriously. But certainly an honor to participate in that, and I really appreciate the fact that since we've signed our operating arrangement with JAPACOS, the Circle of Aboriginal Services, since we signed that last summer, this is the first opportunity that we've really had to work on a project together, and I think that there's some great cultural learning on both sides, and I think that that's super valuable for the City of Grand Prairie as an organization. With that, I have no other events to report, and seeing nothing else, I will call our meeting adjourned. Thank you.